Will the Fed be cutting rates next week? Let's break it down. So the Fed is in a bit of a tricky situation. We had two back-to-back rate cuts with Powell shifting a little bit more hawkish neutral at the press conference, pushing back on December rate cuts, and we saw rate cut odds fall below 50% in the following days post FOMC. And then we got the NFP report, which showed that job growth was optimistic and the unemployment rate ticked up, but still below that 4.5% year-end projection that the Fed has. Rate cut bets remained stable at 40%. Now, more recently, we had dovish commentary from Fed John Williams, who is the president of the New York Bank, and he said he supported easing in the near term, alongside other members like Fed Waller and Fed Daly, who also backed a December rate cut, and this has kept rate cut bets at 70 to 80%. Now, even though greedy markets are pricing in a rate cut for December, we still don't have the most recent CPI data, and a lot of the Fed members are still mixed on their outlook. And some are saying that they don't want to ease in the near term given the missing data, like Fed Collins, who's claiming that she's hesitant. And we also had a dissent at the last meeting from Fed Schmidt. So it's safe to assume that the Fed will be having an interesting discussion next week. Now, all eyes are on this week's PCE inflation report, which will be our last look at inflation before next week's meeting. And it'll be extremely interesting to see what the Fed decides, as they are pretty divided. And Markets Live newsfeed will have you covered on all headlines and developments, so go to marketedge.ai.